Hola clase, ¿cómo están ustedes? Yo estoy súper bien. Por fin, la última lección de capítulo uno. We are on the last lesson of chapter 1. So we're doing it. That means we are almost to the halfway mark of the semester, though. So, what do you need to do to get yourself in order? Are you meeting those goals that you set for yourself in the beginning? I know we always have these great ambitions for us, and then when the semester starts, we become overwhelmed. We're not able maybe to keep up with all those goals. So, what is it that you can reflect on to try to regroup yourself so that you can go head into the middle of the semester making your future self more successful? So, I always say, what can I do to make future Bridget successful in May? To make me less stressed, when I put it in that way, sometimes it motivates me more to get the things done that I need to. So, vámonos. Vamos a comenzar con los AR verbos, but because we're the last one, I just kind of wanted to do a little bit of repaso. Like, what have you learned? So if you guys take a look at your cheat sheet, one of the first things I want you to do, hay 21 capitales hispanohablantes. Pero hay un lista de 10. So you have 10 on your screen right now on your paper. How many of the capitals have you gotten down at this point in the semester? It's something that we've practiced throughout the semester. What are you retaining? And I think that's what's so hard as we fly through semesters. We're always on to the next because we don't have a lot of time. But are you taking a second to process what you are retaining? Are you retaining what you need to, right? So this will give you a good idea. Like, man, maybe I need to put 5 more minutes in or 10 more minutes in so I can walk away having a better knowledge of this time I've invested for. So, all right, vamos a practicar las capitales. Let's see how you did. La capital de Peru starts with a L and it sounds like a bean. Lima, Lima, Peru. La capital de Argentina. Hay dos palabras, there are two words. Buenos Aires, muy bien. La capital de Colombia, Bogo. Buy one, get one. Bogota. That's how I kind of remember that one, Bogo. La capital de Ecuador starts with a Q, Quito. And oftentimes if I give that Q, like, no pun intended, if I give a Q, like I just did, I said it starts with a Q, you can automatically get it. So you just might need a little bit of nudging, which means you're almost there. Like you're about to memorize this. La capital de Chile, Santiago. Muy bien, Santiago. La capital de Uruguay, Montevideo. La capital de Paraguay, Asunción. La capital de Bolivia, hay dos capitales. La Paz y el Sucre, muy bien. La capital de Venezuela, Caracas, Venezuela. Bogota, Colombia. Lima, Peru. If you want a really annoying song on YouTube, it's called Rock the Capitals, South America, and you will definitely know your capitals after that. Y la capital de España, Madrid. Muy bien. All right, vamos a ver. Let's see if you can answer these basic questions. At 3 weeks into the semester, can you answer these basic questions? ¿De dónde eres? Means where are you from? Yo soy de Nueva York. Soy de los Estados Unidos. Soy de Madrid. Soy de wherever you are from. I'm asking your origin. This next question I said, ¿Cómo estás tú? ¿Cómo está usted? ¿Cómo va? Right? These are possible answers. Yo estoy bien. I'm well. Estoy mal. I'm not very good. Estoy así. I'm just okay. Estoy terrible. These were just a couple of possible responses. Oftentimes my students are cansado, estresado, all those kind of things. The last question, ¿Cómo se llama usted? This is the formal, so maybe you're more used to hearing ¿Cómo te llamas? Me llamo Maria. Mi nombre es Maria. Soy Maria. The only way you can't answer it, me llamo es Maria. I call myself is Maria. So be mindful. Just pick one or the other. Don't put them both together. Okay? And this last one, I don't think you guys have it on your sheet, but just so you know, ¿Cuál es la fecha? Hoy, maybe by context, you'll be able to get it. Hoy es el 25 de febrero. Hoy es el 5 de marzo. Hoy es el 15 de octubre. Exactly. I'm asking you the date. Es lunes el 29 de marzo, just a random example. It's Monday, March 29th. Okay, so hopefully you're feeling pretty confident. How do you feel about your vocabulario? Like that's one of the hardest part about learning a language is that you have to take the time to learn the vocab. If you don't know the vocab, all this other stuff doesn't mean anything because you don't have the words to put them there, okay? So make sure that you are reviewing that vocab that we started with because we're about to introduce some more vocab. You need to see and hear a word 7 times before you memorize it. Adios, goodbye, hasta la vista, see you, until next time I see you. Hasta pronto, see you soon. Hasta mañana, see you tomorrow. Hasta luego, see you later. Okay, so these are just some adjetivos that we currently worked on. How many can you remember? Ay, Dios mío, es mucho. It is so much, right? And you also have these other things going on. And so there's a lot of discipline that's needed to be successful in your goals. Aburrido, boring. Alto, tall. Antipático, mean. Bajo, short. Bonito, pretty. Buen or bueno is good. Difícil, difficult. Divertido, fun. Fácil, easy. Feo, ugly. Okay, so hopefully you're feeling better that we've done some ripasso. It's almost, I'd love to do this every class, especially when I'm in person, but I don't always get to do that when we're online, just to kind of regroup with all this information that we've been trying to retain. And if you're struggling, it doesn't mean that you're not going to eventually get it. It just needs more practice. Practice will eventually lead you to where you're going. So, vamos a comenzar con la última lección. We're going to start with the last lesson. We are going to conjugate AR verbs. So for the most part, anytime you see an AR verb, this is how you're going to conjugate it. Infinitives are not conjugated. So right here, hablar, this word means to speak. And this word is in the infinitive. We have not conjugated it correctly or conjugated it yet. And it'll make more sense in a second, so don't worry. But what I mean by AR verbs is that they end with the letters AR. So that indicates that it's an ER verb. Estudiar, to study. Caminar, to walk. Mirar, to watch. Escuchar, to listen. Tomar, to drink or to take. And trabajar, to work. I know these are AR verbs because they end with the letters AR. In the next chapter, we'll learn IR verbs. So we have learned a different verb that we conjugated, but it's not an AR verb. Do you guys remember what verb that was? It was el verbo ser. And that one's just irregular, so it doesn't follow a pattern. These AR verbs follow a pattern. So Spanish has 3 types of infinitives, those that end in AR, ER, or IR. And like I mentioned, we'll be doing these ones the next chapter, which are commonly referred to as AR, ER, and IR verbs. For now, we'll just focus on the AR verbs, okay? And so what I'm going to show you guys now is your endings. And I've actually already written it for you on your cheat sheet, so you don't have to fill it in. You're just kind of going to listen to me. So if any of these verbs start with yo, it's going to end in o. So yo hablo, yo como, yo vivo, I speak, I eat, I live. And this is an example of like ER verbs and IR verbs as well. So 2, your ending's going to be as. Third person singular is a. First person plural, amos. Ice on. So, as, a, amos, ice on. You guys have it written right there for you. But now we're going to do something kind of like math. Because you do want to be able to conjugate things correctly. Otherwise, you would say, I is speaking Spanish. I speaks Spanish. I is Bridget. So I need to make sure that I am conjugating the infinitive correctly to match my subject pronoun. Okay, so here's your infinitive, the verb that's unchanged. One of the first things you do when conjugating any verb is drop the ending. So that's what I'm talking about. It's kind of like math. So you subtract the AR, and then I want you to conjugate it to agree with the first person subject pronoun of yo. Well, if it starts with yo, it ends in o. Yo hablo. Yo hablo español. I speak Spanish. if I said yo habla español, I speak Spanish. Sure, you understand me, but it's a little bit grammatically incorrect. So that's why it's important. So this the first one, first person's always easy. If it starts with yo, it ends in o. Easy peasy. Just to give you an example, let's say our subject pronoun is ella. Hablar is our infinitive. Español, she speaks Spanish. So I'd look over here, what form of hablar is going to agree with ella? I go over here, I see that's going to be a, but the first thing I have to do is make sure I drop the subject pronoun or drop the AR. If I don't do that, it's not going to be right. So subtract your AR and then ella habla español, right? So there's a subtraction and then an addition, and eventually you won't have to think about it as much, but in the initial steps, you kind of really have to do a lot of practicing with it. So we're going to conjugate our first verb. You guys have hablar right there in the middle of your sheet. Okay. One of the things I've done that you guys can see on my screen, I've already dropped all the ARs for it. And this is called your stem, right? So that's after you've dropped the ending. If it starts with yo, it ends in o. So yo hablo. I speak, or I am speaking. It can mean both of those things. You have to tell by context. Tú hablas. Él, ella, usted habla. Nosotros hablamos. Vosotros habláis. Ellos, ellas, ustedes hablan. Hablo, hablas, habla, hablamos, habláis, hablan. And remember, in Spanish, I can say yo hablo español or hablo español. I do not have to have my subject pronoun connected, because if I'm talking the yo form, all of my verbs are going to end in o, which indicates that I'm speaking in the first person singular. Yo hablo francés, hablo italiano, hablo portuguesa, hablo inglés. So just like I'd mentioned, you don't need to have your subject pronoun hablo español because it ends in o. I know that's first person, so I know it's saying I speak Spanish or I'm speaking Spanish. Hablamos español. Again, we speak Spanish. We are speaking Spanish. I know that it's nosotros form because this is the only ending that uses amos. And so that's really unique to how the language, having the subject pronouns be optional, is really interesting. Accordingly, you will often see no subject stated in a sentence. So that's pretty common. And whether you choose to use it or you don't, it doesn't matter. They're both correct. It's just a matter of preference, really. But it's good to know both because you're going to hear people use both of them. So these are a couple of popular AR verbs. Cenar is to eat dinner. Contestar is to answer. Descansar is to rest. Llamar, we actually know this one differently, as in me llamo Bridget. I call myself Bridget, but I also could say yo llamo mi madre por teléfono. I call my mom on the phone. Llegar is to arrive. Yo llego mi casa a las 5. I arrive home at 5 o'clock. Llevar, yo llevo mi mochila roja a mi clase. I'm carrying my red backpack to my class. Navegar is to navigate or to sail. Pagar is to pay. Pasar tiempo, me gusta pasar tiempo con mis amigos. I like to spend time with my friends. Yo practico español todos los días. So no matter what, these all in the yo form, yo ceno, yo contesto, yo descanso, yo llamo, yo llego, yo llevo, yo navego, yo pago, yo paso, yo practico. So at least in the yo form in the present tense, it ends in o. Just make sure you drop those ARs. Regresar, to return. Yo termino a las 8. I finish at 8. Yo tomo la tarea. I take the homework. Okay, so now what we're going to do is go ahead. We are going to start with those answers below. You guys have questions 1 through 10. And the first one, I start you out really easy. Again, be sure that you drop your AR. So the verb there you have is preparar. Drop the AR. If it starts with yo, it ends in o. Yo preparo el ejercicio. Okay, so go ahead, take some time, do 2 through 10, and I will give you your responses. Número dos, ¿qué lengua habla usted en casa? In this context, UD, remember, is an abbreviation for usted, and oftentimes in questions, the subject pronoun comes after the verb. Número tres, Margarita. So even, let's say you don't know what the verb pronunciar means. When you're conjugating verbs and you're just practicing it, you don't need to necessarily know what they mean. You can still conjugate it without having any idea what's being said. But if I kind of look at it, pronunciar, pronunciate. So Margarita, which would be ella, right? This would be your third person singular. Pronuncia bien el español. She pronounces Spanish well. Numero cuatro is our nosotros. We're going to drop this AR. I'm going to go over here and not see that I have oh, here it is, nosotros, which is not right. We're going to have this as AMOS. There you go. So you would have nosotros necesitamos practicar más. No, we need to practice more. Número cinco, here again we have the subject pronoun coming after the verb. So it's ustedes. And so if I look over here to see ustedes, I'm going to drop the AR. Estudian ustedes mucho en casa. Do you all study a lot at home? Número seis, los alumnos. That's the same thing as los estudiantes or ellos. Preparan sus lecciones. Número siete, tú hablas inglés. Ella estudia matemáticas. Vosotros practicáis los ejercicios. Ejercicios. Try to say that. Número 10. Sus abuelos, your grandparents, hablan italiano. So sus abuelos would have been the same thing as ellos. So how did you do? If you feel frustrated, that's definitely a part of the proceso. I can tell you I conjugated verbs wrong for many, many, many times. It just takes a lot of practice, discipline, that growth mindset that with hard work and determination, you're going to get to where you're going. So I'm just going to leave you guys today with some inspiration. I'm going to take you to a tea house in Granada. La Teteria is a really popular space. In Granada, again, when we talked about it last lesson, it was a fusion of Arabic, Moroccan, and Spanish culture, and those three cultures love their tea, and so there's lots of unique tea houses that can be found all over Granada, which I'm going to show you. Okay, so last lesson, we talked about the Alhambra. This is me and my niece, or my daughter, and my nephew and his girlfriend, who's from Granada. I was invited to stay with their family last year, and we were walking to this Teteria right here. But behind us, do you remember that huge palace I talked about? This is the Alhambra. This sits at the top of the hill. So many people enjoy going to this Teteria because you have this incredible view of the Alhambra. So again, remember, there was a large Muslim influence in Granada for hundreds of years, and they have a very strong tea culture. And so when you go to the old neighborhood of Granada, the Albayzín, which is just magical, you can find these little tea houses. And so I'm just going to take you so you can have an experience at the tea house. So serving a lot of the same delicacies they would have as well. Mint, different teas to help you acclimate also to the altitude there as well. And so if you ever get a chance, if I ever find the name, it's La Teteria de Banuelo, just absolutely incredible. You sit here, and up here is the Alhambra. So just leaving you with some inspo, because I know that learning Spanish can be really challenging, and it's these cultural things that always keep me invested and inspired to continue. So, que tengo buen día. If you have a question or need something, please reach out. I am happy to help. Ciao.